this morning, sunshine through the clouds, feeling the healing, laughter all around. Rise up and stand tall, joy in every stride. No more tears to fall, let your spirit guide. Blessed girl summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed girl summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Blessed Girl Summer Podcast. Y'all, I know it has been a minute. We are continuing this series, this mini series on my journey to becoming a marriage and family therapist. And so today I would love to talk about the internship. As I'm recording this, I've completed just about my first quarter of internship. So what that means is I've done about 2.5, close to 3 months of internship. And that's a space where you're actually seeing clients. Oh, before I get started, my name is Tisha. I'm the host of Blessed Girl Summer Podcast, and this is just a place where we come to cultivate a life full of joy and peace and learn how to navigate the things that life throws at us, right? The different seasons. I am in college, obtaining my second master's to become a marriage and family therapist. And so I've been on this journey, I'd say, for about a year and a quarter. About a year and a quarter. I have about 3/4 of the year left to do in my internship, and then I'll be able to apply or take the exam to become an associate marriage and family therapist. So, not going to get into all that. I think I talked about that in other videos, but today we're going to talk about the internship process. So I wanted to do this while it's fresh. So I can share some of the things that I've experienced in internship so far. So just to give you an idea of what internship is, it's basically when you look for a job, like you let a clinic know, or maybe a private practice know, or maybe a hospital where they offer mental health services, that you are having to complete a certain amount of hours for your graduate program, doing clinical work. And so clinical work is like out in the field, actually um, utilizing the theories that you learn, the interventions that you learn, and being in session with a client, being a therapist. Being a therapist. Now, for me, for some reason, like, I knew that this is what this was, but I was very much thinking that it was like a volunteer type thing. Because in the past, I've never done an internship before, even though I've, got my master's in organizational leadership. I'd never had to do an internship. And when I was in college, I never did an internship, but I have volunteered at plenty of places. So in my mind, I was like connecting it to volunteering, which is very different. When you're volunteering, you're basically a lot of times like, how can I help out? What can I do? And people are just trying you out in different areas to see like what your skill set is. How could you, serve that organization or that community? Well, internship is different. You're actually doing the job. Whatever that role is that you're interning for, you're actually working in that role. And so for me, the role that I'm working in is as a therapist. I am seeing clients, I am their therapist. And so I don't think that my mind had quite adjusted to it. Like I knew I was going to be doing that, but there's a different level of responsibility, right? Like as a volunteer, you're not given as much responsibility. You're not, you don't have to have as much of a skill set. But as an intern, you definitely need to have the skill set and you have an awesome amount of responsibility. You actually have the same level of responsibility that a therapist has. And so that was something that I had to adjust. So that was something that I had to adjust to. Um, and the reason why I bring that up is because very much like you do at a job, there's an onboarding process, there's a interview process. I went through for my particular internship, I went through 4 interviews. I went through four, right? One, two, three. Yes, I went through 4 interviews. Um, but I appreciate that because they aren't just hiring interns, they're also sewing into you and investing into you as an intern at this particular um, practice that I work at, right? So let's go back. Let's rewind. So, one of the first things that you want to begin to do when you are looking for your internship is you want to definitely have your resume situated. You want to also have a good cover letter, and you want your resume. If you don't, we don't have any experience in this field, right? We haven't done this. You're not able to do therapy unless you're an intern or you have a license. So we don't have any experience, and the clinics and the places that we're applying to, they already know that. So what they're looking for, from my perspective, is the coursework that you've done, how you present, if they have space and availability for you, um, and what models you're interested in, and just really how you present during the interview. And so for my resume, I definitely reworked it and made sure that I had a statement at the beginning that talked about the modalities that I'm interested in, um, the passion that I have for that, for a certain demographic, if that's the case, or for a certain modality, and like what my purpose is or my objective is as a therapist. Then I have my education. So I listed the coursework, the classes and the courses that I've taken. So that way they have a good idea of what I've studied on, what who I can serve, what type of diagnoses or symptoms that I can address, right? And so did all of that, then worked on my cover letter. And the cover letter is really telling them more about who I am, my journey in this process, why I want to work, what are some of my future aspirations or goals, what am I looking for from them as an organization, what have I noticed, why do I want to apply there, right? And so you try to kind of squeeze a lot of that in because they're getting lots of applications. And so you do want your cover letter and your resume to stand out as much as possible. So I'll be honest with you, my school has a portal where you can look at, you can search by your state and then look at all the places that they've worked with before. And there's a lot of places, but it is very competitive. I'm not gonna lie. Um, and there was a lot of applications that I put in that I heard nothing back from. I probably did about 20 applications, and I think I heard back from like 3. And and 2 of them were just letting me know that they are not accepting interns. And the one that I'm working at now was the one that actually wanted to move forward with a an interview. So um, got the interview. Like I said, for mine, there were a lot of questions about like my modality. How do I handle stress? How do I handle navigating multiple things? For many people are working. Many people are, yeah, working full time. And so now you're doing this internship on the side. And everyone is in school. So you also have school. So there were a lot of questions around how am I going to be able to navigate all of those spaces? Other questions around working with other people. How has that been? And then, of course, definitely questions around like why therapy, the transition, like what got me here, especially for me who already has like a bachelor's and a master's in something else. There were a lot of questions around that transition and where I was looking to go. And so it's really important to kind of understand that for yourself. You don't have to have a perfect answer. It doesn't have to be like exactly what you do, because I know that you're in the beginning, and as you grow in this industry and in this space, those things may change. And so they're open to that as well. But I think also wanting to see the vibe, like how you communicate, how you connect, because a lot of things um, people can gather just from that interview process, just like a regular interview. I do think that it's more important as you're going to be interacting with people like that as a part of your job. So we know that when building rapport with a client, there are nonverbals that you want to be paying attention to that you're giving off. And so I would definitely say be utilizing some of those soft skills or micro skills that you're being taught to that are nonverbal to build rapport, because I feel like those that are interviewing you are therapists, and so they'll be able to pick up on that skill that you're utilizing. So after I did all of that, that process, I started that process about 8 months before my internship. They recommend starting it a year in advance, and I would recommend that as well. Some people were not like that was too far in advance for them. But what I've been finding is that a lot of people who currently are in internship, their process started like 8 or 9 months ago. And so I'll tell you in a little bit why that is important. So mine started, I believe, in October, and I started working in April. So the interviewing started in October. I didn't get hired until November. And then we signed an agreement, and then I started working in April. So, a couple of things you want to think about with you're also interviewing the employer, right? You also want to make sure that this is a good fit, that your schedule is going to be able to be flexible enough for whatever schedule they have, that the demographic that they serve is going to meet whatever your requirements are for school. So, my requirements, because I'll be a systemic therapist, I have to have relational hours as well as individual hours. So, relational hours are hours that are with a couple or with a family. And so it has to be more than one person that is related or has some type of relationship outside of like they didn't just meet now, right? And so some type of ongoing relationship. And so it also could be like a caseworker has a relationship with their client, and then you're brought in to have maybe a conversation. And so that would be relational too, because they have a relationship that is going to continue even after your session. So, long story short, there's a certain amount of hours that you need to get I need to get that are relational, and then there's a certain amount of hours I need to get that are individual. And so that's a conversation that I want to have that you'll want to have with your site, wherever it is your employer, to make sure that they're able that the demographic that they bring in is able to meet those requirements that you have. You also want to have a conversation. Let's say if it's not, maybe they don't really have relational hours. They have a lot of individual, but they can almost kind of guarantee you the individual hours that you'll meet that capacity. Then you also want to be able to have a conversation about how they feel about you having an additional site, because you can have the school that I go to, you can have up to 3 sites. So you can have other places that you work. Maybe it's you work one location Monday and Wednesday and another location on the weekends. Um, because the other location maybe can fits helps you will help you meet your hours. The other thing, um, and not just thinking about the type of hours you get, but you want to make sure that the site has a capacity or the ability to help you reach the total hours that you need. So every semester or quarter, for my school's a quarter, there's a certain amount of hours you have to get, because there is a goal at the end of the year that you have had to make a certain amount of hours. So every school has a requirement of what you have to make in that quarter. So you want to make sure as a part of your interview process that they're able to guarantee you, well, they can't really guarantee you anything because people have free will, right? But typically they can guarantee you a certain amount of hours um, a week. And then you can multiply that by however long your quarter is or however long your semester is to determine whether you'll be able to meet these requirements. This is important because if you do not meet these requirements, you do not pass that course. And you have to take that quarter and that course over at your expense. So, um, yeah, you need to make sure that the place that you are going to be working at and investing your time and your hours, you're going to be able to get the hours that you need. Now, back to my other thing about um, the process taking so long. So let's say you get into your site and then you're thinking, you're working and you're realizing, things are slower than I thought that they would be. I'm not getting a certain amount of demographic that's coming in that I may need. I'm just not getting my hours. And some people need other hours. Like some people need, depending upon your licensure. But for my MFT, I don't need non-direct hours. I do need like some other hours, but they're not under supervision, except for there's a certain amount of hours I need to have from my supervisor, my site supervisor. Um, so back to what I was saying. You want to make sure that the earlier you get started trying to find another location, the better. So if you realize that this location may not be, you're not going to be able to make the hours, right? For whatever reason, then you want to start the interviewing process again. You may get lucky and be able to get another site within that semester. You may not. It may take a couple of months, right, before you get another site. But if you know that you're having a problem gathering your hours, you need to start that process sooner than later. So thank God I haven't had to do that. Thank God. And I sincerely feel for, someone who has to, because it has a lot of my students, my peers have struggled finding another site, right? Because it takes so long. Like a lot of the times the site already has interns that they promised positions to, right? So, but I hear that if you go to like clinics, if you go to hospitals, um, they're typically hiring a lot. Now, the thing that you might want to keep in mind, depending upon the type of work you want to do and the type of population you want to serve. Typically, if you're in a hospital or a clinic, you have a lot of clients. You're going to have you're going to have a lot of clients. I have a peer who, for the first quarter, we just had to have 25 hours. She had, by the second week of the semester, she had like 40 some hours already because of where she was working. She was working in like community service. And so she was working a lot. She also was full time, but it was just a lot. She was seeing a lot of clients. She had like 30 clients a week. So so also, take into consideration where you're working at and the pace in which they're going to require you to work, especially if you have another job, other responsibilities outside of school, family, children, like all those things. You want to take that into consideration. When I say that it is a hustle, just I would say prepare your mind and prepare your environment and your family and everyone else that will be impacted by you doing internship. Prepare them for the hustle that is to come for the year. That is really all I can say, honest to goodness. So, and at me, in every quarter, there are your hours increase. So the first quarter, I only had to do 25 because that was the starting off quarter, and they understand like there's onboarding, there's building up your clientele, there's building up your caseload, and so that may take time. But going forward, I think next quarter I have to have a total of 100. The quarter after that, I have to have a total of 100. Um, Yeah, no, 75, 100, 100. The whole total I have to have is 300. So it keeps building up. And so Yeah. The other tip I would give, or the other thing that is really, really important, is that you have support, that you have support. And I think that, sometimes it can be difficult to ask for support, especially when you haven't experienced it yet. You don't really know. You're only like imagining what you need. You don't really know what you need until you actually get in it. Um, and what I would suggest, or have you think about, is that support may not come from where you think that it's going to come from, and that being okay. And so what I say by that, when I say that, is that you should actively look for support outside of your family and your friends. And not to say that they're not supporting or anything like that, but I just think that it's a different kind of world and a different kind of space that you're moving in. And it's really good. Like if you can get maybe within your graduate program, whatever your cohort is, like my cohort, we're all moving together in internship. And so we have a really great support system where we can support each other, and we get it because we're all going through it. Our experiences, we're working with different clients and at different clinics, but we get all the things, right, that are happening and that we have to do and that we're trying to figure out still. So definitely try to get a support there. There are also some really great like Facebook groups for people who are um, either interning or preparing for licensure. That's a whole nother beast. I'll have to do another video later about that. But we have the exam that we have to take is 4 hours. Can you imagine the amount of information you have to know for a 4 hour exam, right? And while you are doing your internship, the expectation is that you're studying and preparing as well for this exam, because at the end of your last quarter and you've completed all of your hours, you can, in the state that I live in, you can actually apply to take that exam prior to actually graduating, as long as you're like, I think maybe a month away from graduation and everything else is on track. So that is another thing that is lingering and that is happening in the midst of all of this. Now, I know I've talked about a lot of kind of sort of technical stuff. Let me get to the actual internship. So you can either be doing internship virtually, which is called telehealth, or you can be doing internship in person, where you're actually sitting with your client in person, right? I'm doing both. So I have clients that are telehealth and I have clients that are in person. Um, so for me, for someone who was pretty much doing everything remotely, that was an adjustment to actually have to drive somewhere. You got to take into consideration traffic. You got to take into consideration a lot of the clients that I see in person are in the evening. And so I haven't really had to travel to go anywhere in the evening unless I was going to dinner or I was going to like an exercise class or something. But now I'm going to work. And so just the adjustment, of the schedule is something that you definitely want to consider. But I'm going to say, like, if I edit this and I could put the big old word flexible on here, flexibility, adaptability, those are two traits you absolutely need. And your girl be struggling a little bit because I like routine, I like structure, I like those things. But this space that you're in is going to require you to be so flexible. And so the reason being is you may not come into a caseload that you just inherit, right? I know some people who have. I know some people who they took a position and someone else was leaving, and so they just inherited all of their clients. That is great. Some other people like me, you have to build up your clientele. You have to build up your clientele. So for that is a slow process that may or may not happen as quickly as I would like it to happen. In the meantime, I still have to get the hours. So one thing that my practice offers is co-therapy, which means that I get to partner with another therapist who already has a client with a client's permission, right? And so I get to also help in the during the session. And then the client gets two therapists, right, for the price of one. And so that is a way for me to also get my hour, get experience while I'm waiting for my clientele to grow for my individual sessions. Um, and so that requires flexibility, right? Because you may have your own schedule that you're trying to fill, but the other therapist that is seeing a client may be on a different schedule. So it just requires a lot of flexibility. Thankfully, I'm able to be flexible. Um, but if you thankfully I'm able to be flexible because that has been really, really helpful. And it also it's not just about like an hours thing. It also gives you an opportunity to see other therapists in action. It's a great way to learn. It's a great way to have experience and not be out there by yourself, right? It's just a really great experience to be able to partner with someone else who's been doing this for a while, and then two brains, two people think differently. Like even if we were in the same model, even if we're using the same model of therapy, we think differently. We experience things differently. We hear things. We see things differently. We have different personalities and different ways of approaching things. And so it's really great to be able to be in a space with someone else and see how they look at it, see how they process it, see how they communicate with a client. And back and forth, it's a great opportunity to learn from each other. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be doing a co-therapy session in about an hour and a half, right after I finish this video. um, so yeah, flexibility is like flexible, flexible, flexible. I think I went in because you will hear, I think I did video, you will hear so much talk about self-care, being able to set your boundaries, and all of that is true. I struggled a little bit because I'm like, no, this is my hard boundary. I'm trying to do, I'm trying to maintain my boundary, but I had to also look at it as, well, this is just for a season. So I'm going to have to be a little bit flexible here. And then as my caseload builds up, then I'll lessen my co-therapy and then I'll be able to be in a schedule that might work a little bit better for me. So yeah, what else was my experience with, has my experience with internship been? I feel like it's been very up and down, I think, in terms of emotions. Um, and I think that really has a lot to do with me being like more of a structured person. So I really was being stretched with the flexibility piece. Also, looking at your schedule and maybe it's full in the beginning of the week and then people cancel, reschedule, and then it's not full. And so especially for, I don't know how it is to be like more of a seasoned therapist, but especially for a new therapist, for every case, we're like kind of going over what would be good next steps, what is a strategy, what are we thinking about, how can we serve the client better. So for every client, we're spending time like thinking about um, what we can bring to that particular session. And so it can be a little disappointing when the session doesn't happen, right? Because for every client, we're putting in um, so much, so much work, like, so much work. And then we also have supervision. So as an intern, you're not just out here by yourself. You have a approved supervisor that is going over the cases with you. The important thing I forgot to add is that you're required to record sessions. So the recording of sessions is not for people to be like, oh my goodness, what is happening with this individual. The purpose of recording sessions is for your site supervisors and your faculty supervisors to be able to review what you're doing and offer suggestions, maybe give you other interventions and different ways that you can be a better therapist. And so it's really about examining the therapist. So when I say all of that, I say that we are being examined. And so we're constantly being challenged with what we are bringing to the session. So back to my initial thing, when you see like a full schedule, then you have like no schedule, or you have like a little bit That can kind of, take you up and down. At least it did for me in the beginning. And so I had to adjust to that. And it's not that you're mad at the client or anything. I think it's just, you're still new, you're anxious, you want to do your best, and you have all these thoughts going through your head because you're human. So just be prepared for that too. Flex, and I can put the word up here again, flexibility, because that's really what it's about. And then lastly, I'll add, um, I'll add, sometimes I think that we want to go, I'll speak for myself. You may want to go, or I may want to go into a session and do all the things, fix everything, like do all the things. And you only have 50 minutes. Um, you only have 50 minutes. It may extend to an hour depending upon, what you're talking about, but you only have 50 minutes and you can't do everything in 50 minutes. You hear people say all the time, like whatever brought you into the session or into the room took way longer than 50 minutes to evolve, right? And that's the same thing. It's going to take way more than 50 minutes to for healing to occur, for change to occur, for um, rapport to be built. Like it's going to take more than that. And so I would just encourage you to remind yourself of that. Like every session is a new session, every session is a new opportunity, it's a new space. And sometimes, we want to do the preparation, we want to be prepared, and we want to get it right, so to speak. We want to get it right. That's me. We want to get it right. But really, maybe sometimes getting it right is just listening, it's just having an ear. It really depends on what the client brings into the session. And I think holding on to that is really important as you're doing like the hustle and bustle of everything else. And so I think that that can be lost um, if we're not intentional about it. And I bring it up because if you lose that, then you could be potentially beating yourself up for not doing more. You're going to increase your anxiety because you're going to be feeling like you should be doing more. You're going to be trying to like over prepare, over plan, overdo all these things. You're just going to be highly stressed. And then when you get into the session, I'm sure that that stress is going to exude from you. And if it doesn't, and you're able to suppress it when you get out of session, that stress is going to exude from you. So, yeah, it's been a little roller coaster. It's been good. I can't wait to come back and let you know how quarter 2 has gone. But for now, I'm just building up my caseload, my client load. I'm still learning. There's so much to learn. Other thing I'll say, but I think I'm going to talk more on it in next quarter because I'll probably have a better grip on it. There is this great, um, I don't want to say, there's this great desire to know all the things. When I say, I'm not going to order another book, okay? There's somebody say, "Oh, I did this with a client in site supervision." Psh, you're trying to get the book. You're trying to get the blueprint. You're trying to get the thing. And when I tell you every client is different and the things that work for somebody else may not work for you, may not work for your client, and may not work for you. And so you can definitely get into sensory overload, information overload. You can get into it in a quest to be being the best. And I am now in a place where I'm challenging myself and I'm going to challenge you to be comfortable sitting in a place of experiencing what you have in session with what you actually have right then and there. The knowledge that you have, the experience that you have, the empathy that you have, the other skills that you learn in terms of validating, um, listening, reflective, like sit in those skills. Be comfortable sitting in those skills, right? Um, because that will carry you far further, I think, than like knowing 70 million interventions. That is just, coming from me. Because I think that your interventions will be able to come to you and click with you. And so I'm still learning this, but I've heard therapists say this all the time. Like, it is really, you're evolving as well. You're evolving as a therapist. And the more you evolve, the more you'll get comfortable and you're like sit in your seat, so to speak. So, yeah, that is it. I said I was going to keep this close to 30 minutes. I'll be back, y'all. I'll be back as the process continues. I'll keep y'all abreast. I really wanted to be able to create this video because I feel like there wasn't anything available for me when I was trying to figure out what this thing looks like, what this will be. So if you have any questions that I haven't answered, please drop them below and I will definitely try to get back to you. You know, girl busy, but I will try to get back to you and maybe even do a video on that particular thing. Because if you have the question, I'm sure other people have the question. But much luck on your journey. Stick it out. Stay the course. It is absolutely worth it. And you're not alone. You're not alone. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Until next time, take care.
Woke up this morning, sunshine through the clouds, feeling the healing, laughter all around. Rise up and stand tall, joy in every stride. No more tears to fall, let your spirit guide. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems.